In the last chapter of One Piece, chapter 1058, we basically got a buffet of bounties. I mean, we were shown a mass number of new bounties, both for the Straw Hats and for the Cross Guild, a group made up of former warlords. And considering how outrageous some of their bounty numbers is, Crocodile almost having 2 billion berries and Buggy being given a 3 billion berry bounty, I kind of want to know what the other warlords' bounties would be if they were unfrozen or shown to us. So I might as well predict a couple of them. I mean, there's 5 warlords that we don't have the bounty for or that are still frozen to our knowledge, and that includes Doflamingo, Boa Hancock, Gekko Moria, Weevil, Whitebeard's quote-unquote son, and the newly freed Bartholomew Kuma. And considering the kind of numbers they were throwing at Buggy, Crocodile, and Mihawk, I'm really interested in what kind of numbers they'd be throwing at these warlords. So I'm gonna go ahead and guess a few of them. Starting off with Bartholomew Kuma.
Hi, how are you?
Now I'm going to give 2 possible bounty predictions for him. He had, I believe, a 296 million berry bounty before it was frozen. And with him being freed from the revolutionaries and calling Dragon Master, if he's still in his little beat down robot form, I don't see the government really giving him much of a higher threat level. So they'll probably up him maybe 500 berries to around 800 million berries, I would say, if he's still in his little obedient robot form, because he's not much of a threat. But if he's back to normal, if they can get him back to normal, or even worse, if he can follow Dragon's orders to a T like it seemed in the chapter, then they would have to make him a clear 1 billion berry man. I'm sorry. I would give Kuma around 1.4 billion berries. All of this considering his ties to the revolutionary, but also the fact that, you know, with Sabo becoming more prominent, Dragon being the world's most notorious, heinous criminal, whatever you want to say, and Ivankov breaking out of Impel Down way ago, 2 years ago, and being more notorious now. I don't see him having a higher bounty than those 3 people, so 1.4 billion seems safe, even if he is back to normal. Now, Gekko Moria would probably be the person I do next. And even though he was a villain that we fought pre-time skip, I think a lot of people just straight up don't like him and dumb him down or lower him down a lot. But he is kind of a problem. I mean, if we look at the flashback that we got in Wano, he went heads up with Kaido way back when. No, he didn't win, but he still went heads up with the dude. And in Thriller Bark, if we just look in that vacuum, he was half-assing that entire arc. I mean, literally on his butt, letting his Devil Fruit fight an entire Straw Hat crew the entire time. I mean, if he took it seriously, that fight at the end could have gone on either way between the entire crew and Gekko Moria. But that being said, I still think that Jinbei would still double tap this man, still sun him if they went heads up. So I would give him a bounty slightly lower than Jinbei at about 1 billion and 50 million berries. Continuing the trend of the big round guys, next would be Edward Weevil, or Whitebeard's quote-unquote son. He had a bounty of 480 million berries going into the time skip, or I guess during the time skip, and when it was frozen, I don't think it would have increased that much in like 2 years. I don't think his threat level would have increased that much, and I don't think he was much of a threat level beforehand. I do think he'll get a flat increase, kind of like Kuma did when I mentioned even if he was just a robot, he was still getting an increase due to his warlord status. So I think we will get that same kind of increase by having him just below 8 billion, at about 980 million. Enough to warrant, you know, reputation, being a warlord, but not enough to be classified as a threatening warlord like all the others. But this next warlord is more than just threatening. Matter of fact, I would say he's downright devilish. And that's going to be Doflamingo, Mr. Dofi himself. Now, he had a bounty of 340 million berries before the freeze, but as we know, this man is so much higher than his bounty. I mean, if we look at the Dressrosa fight, yes, he lost to Luffy, but consider everything Luffy had to do to actually beat this man. They went double team Luffy and Law to him at first, where Law basically destroyed his organs and he had to stitch himself together doing that the entire time. Had the birdcage going over Dressrosa the entire time. Had a Devil Fruit awakening the entire time, well, later on in the fight. And had Luffy had to go into Gear 4 twice, if no one was there to carry him away, if no one was there to stall Doflamingo while Luffy was recovering his energy, he would have lost. Same way that he would have lost to Katakuri. And honestly, I think Dofi and Katakuri are about the same level. I think they both could have beaten Luffy when they fought him one-on-one without any sort of interference. They both were beating Luffy. I'm sorry. And with him being a warlord, I actually think the government would value him more threatening than Katakuri and most First Division commanders. So I think he would actually be given a bounty slightly higher than when Luffy had when he beat Katakuri at Whole Cake. And I think Doflamingo would have a bounty of 1.6 billion berries. Again, mainly because of his warlord status, but also because this man is a pirate captain, or I guess a king, was a king, but a pirate captain of his own crew, not subordinate to anyone else, and gave this man equally as much problems as Katakuri. So Luffy, whom a lot of people will agree did not beat Katakuri out of that fight, but got a 1.5 billion berries out of it, I think Doflamingo would be right around there, if not slightly higher. But last and definitely not least is the pirate empress Boa Hancock, Miss Simp herself. I mean, Boa had a bounty of 80 million berries pre-frozen, but we all know, just like Crocodile, 80 million don't mean nothing if you had it for that long. This man Crocodile went from 80 million to almost 2 billion. And honestly, I'm inclined to do Boa the exact same. Actually, I would give Boa a bounty of 2 billion berries, even higher than Crocodile, for 3 strong reasons. 1, the warlord status, obviously. 2, this woman is a confirmed conqueror's observation and armament haki user, probably master, but she leads an entire tribe that is all dedicated to haki. She's the leader of it, so her haki has to be better than all other people in that tribe, a tribe of female warriors, mind you, and she's confirmed to have conqueror's haki. And thirdly, as just mentioned, she's a queen of a kingdom of warriors. When it comes to threat levels, that has to be equivalent to a cross-grill threat level. I mean, maybe not the same because they're not going directly after the Marines, but still, that's an army of hockey level fighters that you have to go through just to get to Boa herself. So yeah, I would give her a bounty of 2 billion even. But that's my predictions on all of the warlords and their bounties. But here's some food for thought. If 5 supernovas can beat 2 emperors, can 7 warlords beat the 4 emperors?
Really makes you think.